My Gapminder presentation is comparing the number of children per woman to the child mortality rate of 0 to 5-year-olds dying per 1,000 born. And as you can see here, there's a rather parabolic almost graph to this. And as we look at it over time, of course we start out with Sweden because that seems to be the popular choice to start out with most graphs. And I noticed that most of the graphs tend to start out around 4 to 5 kids, and they stay in this very high mortality rate, and they kind of bounce around a lot because in this stage there weren't very many healthcare options, and it really just depended on luck more than anything else where you lived as to how many kids you have died. And I noticed that it's kind of all over the place at first, but as we add more and more data, it starts to become more linear and eventually forms this parabolic shape like we see now, where the less kids you have per woman, the less child mortality rate there is, despite the fact that, of course, you're going to have, if you have less kids, there's going to be less kids dying. But at the same time, through all of this, we also have to take into account that the populations of these places are constantly increasing, which means not only are we getting more kids, more women, and more children per woman, but the overall mortality rate is also going down. So I just found that very interesting. And let's track, because I think it's very interesting how Sweden bounces around a little. And it just seems to go kind of all over the graph here and doesn't really have a set path or really any sort of pattern here. It just kind of bounces around this little area and steadily makes its way down this way. But I noticed that overall, just looking at it within like a 2 to 3 year span, there's not really any sort of pattern up here. It's only until you get to here in the 1900s that there starts to be some sort of pattern, and it starts getting down here with this big group. So I just found that overall very